Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been about a good 2 or 3 years since the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, and all I can say about that is thank God. Seriously, nothing has made me lose faith in the future of humanity more than the authoritarian measures our governments took to curb the spread of the virus. We had everything from vaccine mandates, to mask mandates, to friggin' vaccine passports. It was starting to get to the point where I wouldn't have been surprised if the government mandated that everybody needed to wear a full-on hazmat suit before stepping outside their house. Not helping matters was that we had huge, corrupt pharmaceutical companies that were rushing out vaccines for the virus that didn't work as advertised. And they were advertised heavily. Case in point, today's comic.
In October of 2022, long after we survived the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic, the pharmaceutical company Pfizer teamed up with Marvel Comics to produce a 16-page comic book starring Marvel's most famous superhero team, the Avengers. This actually isn't the first time that Marvel has done something like this. Back in August of 2021, Marvel teamed up with Somos Community Care, which, if you don't know, is New York's leading physician-led network of community doctors, to produce a comic titled Avengers, We Are Resilient that aimed to combat misinformation about COVID-19. The reason I'm not reviewing that one is because it's harder to find, as it only had a small physical release. Pfizer's comic book, on the other hand, was distributed online for free, though a limited print of physical copies were distributed at hospitals and offices. And its purpose was to encourage people to go get the COVID-19 vaccine that Pfizer had put out well over a year beforehand.
Let's see why Pfizer ultimately failed in that pursuit as we check out Avengers Everyday Heroes #1. Oh, and welcome, my friends, to PSA Hell.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man who punch, wears a party hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara. Coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara. This comic sucks. Linkara. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore.
I'm gonna be honest, folks, this comic's cover does not inspire much confidence. Let's start with this group shot of the Avengers. First of all, what the hell are some of them doing? Captain Marvel is waving to somebody off-panel, and Iron Man seems to be getting ready to blast the reader with one of his ion cannons.
This'll teach you to get the Johnson & Johnson shot.
Also, take a look at Thor. The poor sap got reduced to just his head, and the same goes for Ultron, who, for those that don't know, is a long-standing Avengers foe who is also the main villain of this comic. In fact, not only is Ultron just a head, but he also looks mildly annoyed that he has to be involved in this story.
I cancelled my Gilligan's marathon for this?
Next, let's take a look at this group shot of an average family. First of all, why are they posing like that? Are they in the middle of taking a family portrait? Second of all, what in the heck are some of these poses? Some of them make sense, like the boys, whose pose resembles the one that Spider-Man makes when he lands on the ground, but others leave me scratching my head. For example, the little girl on the left is holding her arms in the form of the letter X. Why? Is that in reference to the X-Men? When have the X-Men ever done that? And if they have ever done that, why? It looks ridiculous. And then there's her dad, who's standing behind her and pointing at... What the hell is he pointing at? Is there a meteor hurtling through the atmosphere or something?
Maybe he sees a much better comic lying right beside this one on the rack and is merely trying to lead the reader to it.
Also, what the hell is going on with the sky? Why does it have those scales? Is this story taking place inside the Matrix? Are we gonna be asked whether we'll take the red or blue pill? Is that choice gonna be covered under my medical insurance? Last but not least, would you ever guess that this comic was about raising awareness for the COVID-19 vaccine? The only visual clue that that's what this comic is about are the bandages on the family's arms. And even those you'd have to squint your eyes to notice.
Alright guys, you get the point. This cover sucks. Let's move on.
Turning the page, or rather scrolling to the next page if you're reading this comic on Marvel's website like I am, we readers are greeted with a full-page spread that explains how we can help defend against COVID-19.
If these instructions don't lead to me getting a Mr. T trading card, I'm going to be very upset.
Advertisement. Before we get into the action, here's a word from our sponsor.
Radio Shack puts the power of business computing in your home and saves you $300. The powerful 286 Tandy 1000, now only $11.99 including color monitor. You save $300.
You're among everyday heroes every day.
I'm pretty sure the homeless guy down by my local corner store yelling about being Batman is just crazy.
The construction worker, the florist, the painter, everyday heroes are everywhere in your community. What makes them everyday heroes?
They provide services and utilities that our society will collapse without?
They know what to do to help defend against COVID-19.
Right. And how are those sudden death statistics working out for you?
Vaccinate. Together, we can help protect ourselves against COVID-19.
But what if I can't take the vaccine for medical reasons? Don't worry, little Emily. We have just the solution for that problem.
Communicate. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about the latest developments in COVID-19 vaccines.
Unless, of course, you listen to doctors who say what we don't like. In that case, we'll revoke their licenses and ostracize both them and you from society.
Stay up to date. COVID-19 is unpredictable. Continue to take action against COVID-19 as it evolves.
Geez, you'd think COVID-19 was like a novel coronavirus or something.
We all need to do our part. So, vaccinate, stay up to date with the latest recommended booster for you, and be an everyday hero.
What the hell do we need a booster shot for? Shouldn't the COVID-19 vaccine be efficient enough for us? Why the hell do we need to take further shots of the same damn vaccine?
As you can imagine, this whole page is patronizing and downright stupid, especially in hindsight. However, we'll be here all day if I pick apart every reason why that is, so let's move on. The comic proper opens on a fairly crowded hospital lobby. A narration caption informs us that these people are waiting to get their COVID-19 vaccinations. We see the family on the cover sitting across from a widescreen TV that is tuned into the local news. The newscaster is recounting how the Avengers are currently fighting Ultron for the bajillionth time. As the Avengers continue to battle Ultron in an all-too-familiar sight for this long-standing foe of Earth's mightiest heroes. That's like 6 blocks from here. Is Ultron gonna get us? I think we're gonna be okay, bud.
Our apartment building, on the other hand, yeah, hope you kids love our station wagon, because that's where we're going to be living for the next 6 months.
Plus, there's no way that's only 6 blocks away. It's gotta be at least like 7. Thanks, Dad. Very comforting.
Dad, why did you drag us to the hospital when Ultron is in the middle of a destructive battle with the Avengers nearby? Do I need to spank you with my chancla again? No, I'm good.
Don't worry, Captain Marvel will help protect us.
Sorry, sweetie, but you guys are over there, and over there needs to take care of its own damn problems.
On the next page, Grandpa chimes in. That's right, just like the Avengers have done so many times before. He proceeds to tell the kids about the history of Ultron and the Avengers, detailing how Ultron always, quotes, keeps changing and evolving, forcing the Avengers to, quote, adapt and re-strategize.
Okay, so in order to keep my sanity in check, I'm going to save my thoughts about the analogy that these writers are making here for the end of the review. For those of you who don't want to wait that long, however, here is a shortened version of what they are. It sucks.
The first time Ultron showed up, we had never seen anything like him before.
Now, when Iron Man showed up, it was no big deal, because everybody had flying suits of metal armor by that point.
After Grandpa's done speaking, we're treated to 2 panels of Ultron and the Avengers. In the first, Ultron gains sentience for the first time as the Avengers just sort of look on with worryingly unconcerned expressions on their faces.
I guess they figured it would take Ultron like a week to figure out how to move his arms and legs because he was running on Windows XP.
In the second, Ultron starts fighting the Avengers for pretty much no reason whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that his origin story was a lot more nuanced and detailed than that, as in he actually had a reason to attack Earth's mightiest heroes, but then again, this is a PSA comic, so high quality storytelling is off the table. On the next page, the dad starts talking. Back then, people didn't know much about Ultron, did they? At first, people weren't prepared, and he just wreaked havoc on their lives.
Yeah, that's what I just said, moron! Get with the friggin' program already!
Well, you're right. The Avengers had to figure out how to face him. They relied on decades of experience, along with some new innovations.
Wait, the Avengers have been around for decades, and they still haven't figured out how to stop Ultron for good? Wow, these guys are pretty inept for being Earth's mightiest heroes.
Furthermore, I know that comics traditionally have a sliding time scale, but huge periods of time aren't usually brought up during stories because it introduces a pretty big question. If it's been decades since the Avengers have been on the scene, then why is it that they're still as young as they appear to be? I can at least buy Captain America staying that young, as he's got the super soldier serum flowing in his system, and that probably inhibits aging to a vast extent. But what about the rest of the Avengers? How does Black Widow look like she's barely in her 20s when Ultron didn't arrive until decades after the Avengers first formed? They should release whatever secret anti-aging formula they've discovered that's kept them looking this good after all that time. Because that would help our species more than the COVID-19 vaccine would.
And if they have aged considerably, then why the hell hasn't Ultron taken any of them out yet? A super intelligent, super powerful robot should be more than capable of wiping out an elderly Tony Stark or Hank Pym.
Ugh. Anyways, Grandpa says that the Avengers had to work together to defeat Ultron, which prompts his grandson to ask if they used new tools to help them. Yes, I think so. Another robot that first time, and it was working. For a while, then Ultron got a step ahead again.
He installed the dreaded Windows Vista operating system on it.
Grandpa, how do you know so much about the Avengers?
Ha ha ha! Well, it's simple, little kid. He's just watching them all the time.
That's a good question. You see, before Grandpa can answer his grandson's question, his granddaughter lets out a gasp on the next page as she watches Thor punch Ultron into a building. Continues to be an absolute knockdown, drag-out fight, though officials say they are optimistic that the Avengers can prevail.
Meanwhile, Ultron has leveled 6 city blocks and has wiped out both Iron Man and Black Widow. I'm starting to question these guys' judgment.
The kids' mother wonders if they should ask the hospital staff to turn the TV off or change the channel, as she doesn't think that her children need to see this level of violence, but her husband shrugs her off, saying, "It's the world we live in, and the Avengers help protect us."
What's that, little Jimmy? You wanna play Grand Theft Auto, a game that depicts violence, sex, and drug use? Well, that's the world we live in, so go crazy, buddy.
I suppose you're right. We've seen Ultron so many times before. I remember when the kids were younger, he attacked overseas, spreading his terror across the world. No one saw that coming, not at the time.
Duh, I couldn't possibly fathom some villain wanting to commit villainy in a place that wasn't America. I are smart.
We're treated to a shot of the Avengers fighting Ultron in a nondescript city of vaguely foreign origin. Judging by the statue, I'd guess this was England, but then again, this could be Uganda. God knows what kind of messed up things go on over there. I don't even remember how they got the upper hand that time. Do you remember, Pops? I certainly do.
They offered him Hostess fruit pies. You weren't really there for all of this stuff, were you, Grandpa? No, but that's what you get for sticking me in a nursing home.
On the next page, we're treated to 2 more panels of the Avengers fighting Ultron, as Grandpa explains to us what the hell is going on. By that time, the fighting had come home, right to the Avengers mansion.
They really shouldn't have put their address on the mailing list for their fan club.
And Ultron had evolved once more, multiplying into a swarm.
He learned this amazing ability from playing Pokemon, which in hindsight we probably shouldn't have let him do. Oops.
The plan was a lot of hard work, but so strategic and innovative, the Avengers truly outdid themselves.
I'm not gonna mention what specifically the plan was, or what the Avengers had to do to pull it off. You're just gonna have to imagine all of that stuff.
It involved an energy shield, Thor's lightning, and Antarctic vibranium.
We had to sink like 1/3 of the Antarctic's glaciers and raise the world's sea level by 3 miles, but I think it was worth it.
And wait a minute, wouldn't the existence of vibranium in Antarctica lead to every country attempting to take that continent over for their own gain? I get that Antarctica is an inhospitable wasteland, but that hasn't stopped countries like the US from invading similarly extreme environments like the Middle East for their oil. World War III should have already occurred in this universe if it was common knowledge that vibranium was buried deep inside the Antarctic. Also, does this mean that the Penguins of the Marvel Universe have created their own technologically advanced kingdom? If the answer's yes, then why can't we see that? That sounds like a way better story than the one we're being told now.
I want my Penguin Wakanda, damn it!
Ugh. Anyways, we're taken back to the hospital, where Grandpa finishes up his story. I was remodeling my kitchen at the time and wanted to get my hands on some Antarctic vibranium.
That's just what Grandpa wants you to believe. He was actually getting vibranium for the CIA to put on the windows of the SUVs that they use to distribute cocaine to the black community.
But it was probably better put to use in the fight against Ultron. Probably. I had no idea the Avengers did all of that. They're just constantly re-strategizing and updating their methods behind the scenes, even when we don't see it.
Wow, it's almost as if that's how human beings tackle difficult, recurring problems or something.
Well, they've used a lot of methods over the years. We cut to outer space, where, in the first panel, we see an image of Titan, a moon of Saturn, whose surface has been changed to look like Ultron's face.
Now that is one mad Titan. Boo all you want, I'm not apologizing for that joke.
The second panel shows the Avengers, or rather just Captain America and Thor, visiting Ultron's kingdom. I guess Captain Marvel got pregnant again, and the others were left at the mansion to deal with that. Anyways, the final panel features Ultron being shot into space after being pasted onto a rocket with green sperm?
Ew.
Enough of the pretty pictures, however, let's go over the narrative captions. A few years ago, Ultron took over the entire moon of Titan.
You can't fool me, Gramps. We all know that Ultron was voted Titan's supreme leader in a fair and fortified election.
Ultron had evolved once more, and the Avengers had to adapt, so in the end...
They challenged him to a game of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Nah, obviously they fired him into space. On the following page, the mom remarks that she never knew the Avengers fired Ultron out into space, to which her grandfather replies, "Most people don't. A friend told me about it."
This wouldn't be the same friend who's been trying to lure the children of the neighborhood into his white van by offering them free candy, would it, Grandpa?
Oh, right. Those fancy friends of yours.
Fancy living, here we come. Wah, 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 wah.
Right as the woman's son is pointing out that the Avengers aren't fighting Ultron on Titan, a giant explosion occurs that rocks the building. The dad grabs a hold of his children and says, "Okay, yeah, that one was pretty close. We may be at some real risk here, especially since this battle has been going on for a while."
Then why did you decide that now would be a good time to take your family to go get their vaccines, you moron?
Seriously, this hospital has probably been administering vaccines for a good while, since the comic doesn't bother to tell us when this story is happening, so you've had plenty of time to get your family their shots without risking their safety. Even then, you could have at least gone to another hospital that was farther away and gotten your vaccines there instead.
God, what a dumbass parent!
Let's just wrap this up already. The grandpa tells everybody not to worry because Iron Man is probably gonna show up with some uber powerful weapon that'll defeat Ultron. Sure enough, the news camera catches Iron Man arriving at the scene with... Is that the BFG from Doom?
That's another story I'd rather read about. The Avengers fighting Mephisto and his demons in the pits of hell.
No, of course. The weapon that Tony has is an ionized energy cannon, as the newscaster helpfully points out. A massive development to share, as the Avengers have turned the tide of the battle using some sort of ionized energy cannon, causing Ultron to flee the scene.
Wait a minute. Ultron flees the battle? You mean to tell me that the Avengers don't even take him down in this story? These are the lamest superheroes ever.
Ionized energy cannon? As long as it works.
Why do I get the feeling that that exact exchange happened during the pitch for this comic?
Ionized energy cannon.
Kid, you're not allowed to talk anymore.
Grandpa, how did you know that would happen?
Because I'm psychic, little Jimmy. In fact, you probably shouldn't take the bus to school tomorrow unless you're really suicidal.
Because I know them.
I'm the one who does their taxes.
And I've seen their patterns so many times before. Ultron evolves. The Avengers gather information and take time to innovate and adapt. and then they figure out how to fight it, putting together their existing knowledge and research, along with the new information they've learned.
That all sounds like pretty friggin' obvious battle strategizing, Gramps. Are you sure you aren't having another one of your episodes right now?
The grandson asks if his grandpa is friends with the Avengers, or if he just knows them the way that regular people know them, but his sister interrupts him by pointing at a nearby window and shouting, "Look!"
A much better story is going on right outside.
On the next page, we see the Avengers flying past the hospital that the family is waiting at. Well, half of them are flying, the other half are just trudging past with pissed off looks on their faces. Almost as if they know that the most they've done today is stall Ultron's inevitable takeover of the planet Earth or something. Anyways, the girl shouts at Iron Man, which is pretty weird, considering that she's been playing with a Captain Marvel action figure the whole story, so you'd think she'd call out to her, but I digress. And Iron Man waves back at the kids and asks how they're doing. He then flies over to their window and tells their grandpa the following: "John, you're looking good, buddy. Retirement really agrees with you."
Iron Man, my name isn't John, it's Bradley. I said you're looking good for your age, John.
Thanks, Tony, but don't you Avengers think about retiring. We need you out there helping to protect us.
Yes, even when your body is old and weak and you need to wear an oxygen mask to breathe, we're still gonna expect you to protect us. You're our slave now, Tony Stark.
We're just getting started.
You've been saying that for 60 years, Tony. I think it's time to pack it in.
You know Iron Man?
No, I just paid him $1 million to pretend to know me.
Hey kids, I wasn't always just a grandpa.
I used to be a murdering psychopath. My nickname was Crazy Steve.
In reality, the grandpa actually used to be a damage control foreman, which basically meant that he had to clean up whatever mess the Avengers left behind from their fights with Ultron, which includes everything from sweeping away rubble, to picking up broken Ultron clones, to, making metal sculptures on Titan?
Do private companies even have the legal jurisdiction to clean up disaster areas on another celestial body? What the hell is going on here?
Anyways, the grandpa tells his family that his job taught him many amazing things. And on the next page, we see him finishing up his little morality tale. And that's how I know that we can fight back against even tough, ever-evolving enemies, if you're willing to adapt, fight back, and take steps to protect yourself. There's supposed to be a friggin' comma after the words "fight back," you idiots.
Because poor literacy is cool.
It's also important for entire communities to come together and help fight the threat.
Yeah, that's cool and all, Grandpa, but how come you never told us about you working with the Avengers until now? Well, that's because...
The dad assures his son that they're fighting the threat of COVID by getting the vaccine, which his son is a little too enthusiastic about. Seriously, kid, you're just getting a shot. You're not saving society or anything. That aside, kids your age are the least likely to die or suffer any long-lasting medical effects from COVID-19. And the vaccine isn't even guaranteed to stop you from contracting the virus, since this comic helpfully pointed out earlier that you're still gonna need to get booster shots. So why exactly are you getting excited again? This would be like getting the vaccine for the flu. Sure, it wouldn't hurt, but it's not exactly going to spare you from getting sick either.
To make a long point short, stop celebrating so much, kid. You look like a dork.
The receptionist tells the family that it's their turn to get the jab, which leads to Grandpa delivering the final piece of this comic's dialogue. The Avengers are doing their part to help keep us safe. Now it's time for us to do ours by staying up to date with COVID-19 vaccinations. Man, oh man, get a load of this full-page spread. First of all, what the hell is up with the mayor's friggin' hair? Did she watch Jimmy Neutron that weekend and decide that it would be a good idea to jack his style? Second of all, why are the Avengers receiving a key to the city of New York? Not only is this not the first time that they've battled Ultron, but they didn't even defeat him. Ultron ran away. They've accomplished absolutely nothing. So why are they being treated otherwise? Third of all, that Avengers sticker that's plastered on the sheet right there makes me think that maybe this whole ceremony is a bogus PR stunt that the Avengers themselves put together for some cynical, empty virtue signaling, a la the boys.
It is without a doubt a good time to be in the superhero business. Our net income is up 14%. Our latest film, G-Men World War, just grossed shy of $1.7 billion worldwide. And this fall, we break ground on our newest theme park outside of Paris. The branding opportunities are limitless.
That's not a good look for you guys. Last but not least, why the hell are you guys not wearing your masks? Don't you know that those have to stay on your faces at all times, regardless of if you've got the vaccine or not? How dare you jeopardize the lives of innocent people, you reckless monsters!
Believe it or not, the comic isn't actually over yet. Don't worry though, the last 2 pages are just quick adverts about getting the vaccine, so we should be able to knock them out pretty quickly.
Advertisement. And now, another important message.
You just assemble the Wonder Boner stainless steel rods like this, take the fish, find the top of the spine, sliding through the ring on the Wonder Boner, and
Voila! The Wonder Boner. My wife would like that.
Everyday heroes don't wear capes.
Some put KFC buckets on their head and play metal music.
But they do wear a small bandage on their upper arm after they get their latest COVID-19 vaccination, because everyday heroes are concerned about their health.
But wasn't the COVID-19 vaccine not tested for safety when it was developed? Uh-oh, looks like somebody's asking questions again. Todd, you know what to do.
No! No! No!
And they're people who choose to unite with their communities and do their part to help protect against COVID-19. Vaccinate and stay up to date with the latest recommended booster for you, and be an everyday hero.
If you don't, well, we've got a nice little cell in jail with your name on it. This comic sucks, but oh, it's not just because its story is painfully saccharine and patronizing, oh no. The biggest issue with this comic is how these writers use Ultron as an analogy for the COVID-19 virus.
All throughout the comic, the Grandpa talks about how the Avengers had to come up with all of these plans to stop Ultron, and how Ultron kept evolving and getting stronger, requiring the Avengers to improvise new methods and strategies to defeat him. If you couldn't already tell, the writers are straight up comparing Ultron to the virus that forced us to stay at home for over a year, and the Avengers' efforts to stop him to our efforts to curb the spread of the disease. Do the writers even know what they're insinuating by making that analogy? First off, Ultron was created by one of the Avengers, specifically Ant-Man. This means that the threat of Ultron was man-made. Do you know what else people claim was man-made? COVID-19! Nice job validating what the mainstream media considers a conspiracy theory, you guys. That's certainly gonna make people trust your advice even more. Second off, despite battling Ultron time and time again, the Avengers have still been unable to put a permanent stop to him. In fact, they're so inefficient that it took them bringing out a giant screw-you gun to convince Ultron to run away. And even then, that's not a victory. Having the Avengers' ineptitude as an XP for your vaccine really makes it look dependable, doesn't it? Especially since most other vaccines are one-time only affairs.
Look, I personally don't care whether you do or don't get the vaccine. I believe that getting it is a personal choice that should be left up to each individual person. That aside, there is a reason why mangas are currently killing comic books in sales, and that's because they don't peddle snake oil that's made by faceless multi-million-dollar corporations. Tune in next week when I make one of those last few commentaries that I promised you guys I'd make months ago.